Ukraine doesn't have the one-hit knockout power to take out Russia, but that's okay. Ukraine is fast, innovative. It's capable of pulling off multiple strikes in short succession that decimate key Russian facilities, weakening President Vladimir Putin's war machine in the process. And that's just what it's done over the weekend. Mere hours after Putin held his lavish Victory Day parade in front of some of the world's most important leaders, a series of Ukrainian drone strikes have left Russia's leader furious and exposed. Ukraine just sent a message. Russia can never hide away from Ukraine's retribution. May 11th brought news of a trio of massive drone strikes, with the first focusing on a brand new workshop Russia created in the Tula region. Dubbed the Sheglovsky Val plant, the facility was responsible for building something that Russia desperately needs: Pantsir S-1 air defense systems. We'll get to why those systems are so vital to Putin's plans soon. First, satellite imagery reveals that Ukraine's daring drone strike took place on May 7th, just a day before Putin's supposed ceasefire, leading to the workshop being left as little more than rubble on the ground. Putin will be furious. Work had only been completed on the facility in March 2025, meaning Russia got less than 2 months of use out of it before Ukraine took the workshop out. Specifically, the satellite images show the complete destruction of the recently finished plant expansion. A massive blackened area is also seen in the images, suggesting that Ukraine's drones caused a post-impact fire that Russia wasn't able to put out easily. However, you won't see these images on Google satellite maps. The facility Ukraine destroyed is so new that Google's periodic image updating cycle hasn't caught up. This also isn't the first time Ukraine has targeted the facility. Though it took out the new extension this time, it also hit the Sheglovsky Val plant in January 2024, again with a drone strike that caused fires and several explosions at the facility. In even worse news for Putin, Sheglovsky Val wasn't the only facility Ukraine decimated on May 7th. What happened at that plant was part of a larger drone strike that also targeted a pair of other defense enterprises in Tula, NPO Splav and the JSC Konstruktorsko Bajoro Priborostorinaya, or KBP. We don't know a huge amount about how successful those strikes were yet. However, both facilities are linked to the massive Russian Rostec defense conglomerate and are responsible for producing weapons. NPO Splav makes multiple launch rocket systems, along with missiles and heavy flamethrower systems. As for KBP, it builds precision-guided weapons, ranging from artillery to the missiles used in Russia's air defense systems. Still, the highlight of the first of Ukraine's three-punch drone combo is taking out a plant that builds the Pantsir S-1. Why? That air defense system makes it much harder for Ukraine to send drones and missiles Putin's way. Codenamed SA-22 Greyhound by NATO, the Pantsir S-1 combines a dozen 57E6 surface-to-air, or SAM, guided missiles with a pair of powerful 30mm 2A38M automatic cannons that make it a clear threat to any incoming drones or missiles. The system is equipped with a multi-range radar that enables it to detect aerial targets at a range of around 20 miles, with the radar then tracking those targets down so the Pantsir S-1's missiles can hit them at around the 15-mile mark. Speaking of those missiles, they can hit aircraft at a range of 12.4 miles and an altitude of 6.2 miles. The system is also capable of taking out subsonic cruise missiles, high-speed missiles, and drones, though it has to let all three come a little closer than aircraft before it can hit them. If the SAMs fail, the pair of 30mm 2A38M automatic cannons sends barrages of bullets at a target and is capable of scoring hits on anything that falls within their 2.4-mile range. The air defense system's missiles are interesting. They're arranged into two 6-missile turrets built into the system, with each having a bi-caliber body that makes them 2-stage weapons. The missile's first stage contains a booster, enabling the Pantsir S-1's missiles to accelerate rapidly within the first 2 seconds of being fired. After hitting an appropriate speed, the booster separates, leaving behind the sustainer stage. This stage contains the missile warhead and both a radio transponder and laser responder that combine to enable guidance while in the air. However, the missile doesn't come with its own seeker, with guidance data for precision strikes instead being submitted via the radio link. Each missile is believed to have a hit probability of between 75 and 90%, making a barrage of them fired at a single target lethal. The weapon is also mobile. Putin's forces move their Pantsir S-1s around with 10-ton Ural 5323 trucks, capable of housing the system's turrets, components, and crew. This gives Putin the option of moving his air defense systems to regions he believes are most likely to be targeted, rather than having to install a Pantsir S-1 and then leave it where it lies. The system has proven valuable enough that several other countries buy Pantsir S-1s from Russia regularly. Among them are Oman, Serbia, Syria, Vietnam, Iraq, and Iran. which appeared to predominantly buy a low-cost version of the system designed specifically for export. So the Pantsir S-1 is a vital part of Russia's aerial defense plans. By taking out the new plant built specifically to build more of these weapons, Ukraine has weakened Russia's air defenses. That matters because fewer Pantsir S-1s on the ground means more aerial pathways Ukraine can leverage to send more drones and missiles in the future. This was a forward-thinking strike. Take out the Pantsir S-1 factory today, and Ukraine clears the way for even more devastating drone attacks in the future. So Ukraine's first hit in its three-punch combo already left Russia reeling. Putin has just lost a facility extension into which he'd poured tens of millions of dollars, along with likely losing multiple Pantsir S-1s that were ready for shipping. Given that each of those systems cost somewhere in the region of $13 million to $15 million, Ukraine just struck a blow that weakened Russia both militarily and financially. And it only gets worse for Russia. While the Tula region was being battered by drones, Russia also had to deal with a similar drone strike near its capital city of Moscow. Again, the attack took place on May 7th, seemingly as part of a coordinated aerial assault, with Ukraine this time targeting the NBO Basalt ammunition plant in the Krasnoyarsk region of Moscow. Militani reported on the strike, noting that it obtained images from the Cyber Baroshno open-source intelligence group that appeared to indicate the impact Ukraine's strike had. Smoke obscures much of the picture, which is a bad enough sign given that massive plumes of smoke indicate a direct hit. However, the smoke clears just long enough to show what appears to be his munitions plant, which has absorbed a massive impact. Eyewitness videos from the scene appear to show at least 3 explosions rocking the Russian facility, which is owned by Rostec, just like the facilities caught up in the secondary strikes in Tula. This drone attack matters for 2 reasons: the company that was hit and the weapon Ukraine has just taken out of the skies. Starting with the company, NPO Basalt, which is a Rostec subsidiary, operates research plants and production facilities through which it develops, produces, modernizes, and even disposes of ammunition for all components of the Russian military. It's a heavy hitter when it comes to military production, being responsible for making artillery shells, aerial bombs, anti-tank weapons, and mortar rounds. In other words, explosives are NPO Basalt's stock in trade. That's why Ukraine's May 7th drone strike comes into play. Beyond these fairly standard explosive munitions, NPO Basalt's Moscow plant is believed to manufacture 110-pound warheads for the horde of Iranian-made Shahed unmanned aerial vehicles, or UAVs, Putin uses to pelt Ukraine with his own aerial assaults. Specifically, that warhead is the OFZBCH-50, which is a high-explosive fragmentation munition that also has incendiary qualities. The warhead hits hard and causes a lot of damage, meaning Ukraine taking out one of Russia's primary production facilities has resulted in Putin's Shahed drones becoming much less effective. Let's hone in on these Shaheds for a moment. The primary version of the UAV Putin uses is the Shahed 136, capable of serving as both loitering munition and a kamikaze drone, with the latter purpose making use of the warheads Ukraine just took out. The Shahed 136 is built in Iran and was unveiled in 2021. It's seen a lot of use since then. Beyond Russia buying the drone in heavy quantities, Iran also supplies the weapons to the Houthis in Yemen as of March 2025. Ukraine believes that Russia has launched 15,011 Shahed-type drones at its key cities and military facilities, making the NPO Basalt facility Ukraine just destroyed a key cog in the machine that equips those drones with their explosive firepower. The Shahed 136's design uses the delta wing configuration, featuring stabilizing rudders at the tops and an engine in the rear of the fuselage. It's small and relatively light, with a length of 11.4 feet and a weight of just 440 pounds. To get the drone to where it needs to go, the Shahed 136 is equipped with a combination of commercial-grade GPS and an inertial navigation system. It's far from the most precise drone in the world, however that combination of navigational features is usually enough for Russia to successfully guide its Shaheds to the targets it wants to hit in Ukraine. The UAV's 50-horsepower engine is enough to power it to a top speed of about 114 miles per hour over a range of up to 1,553 miles. That makes the Shahed 136 one of the most useful long-range weapons Putin has in his arsenal. It's cheap to produce, it can be deployed in large quantities, and until Ukraine's successful drone strike, could be equipped with an explosive warhead that causes serious damage. Even when Russia isn't using the drone for attacking purposes, it can also be equipped with a camera that makes it a useful reconnaissance tool. There's not much Ukraine can do about that secondary use other than shooting the drones out of the skies when it sees them. As for the Shahed 136's kamikaze utility, Ukraine's May 7th drone assault just took a huge bite out of Putin's ability to weaponize his UAV horde. Russia isn't toothless when it comes to packing its Shahed 136s with explosives. Others can take the place of those built at the NPO Basalt facility. Still, each facility taken out amounts to fewer Shahed drones in the skies and costs Putin millions of dollars. Don't underestimate what Ukraine achieved with the first two hits in its three-punch drone combo. By destroying a Pantsir S-1 production facility, Ukraine lowered Russia's air defenses. The strike against the drone explosive manufacturing factory just reduced Russia's attacking power. And that brings us to the third drone attack Ukraine launched against Russia. Coming 4 days after the first two hits, the strike targeted the Bryansk region, specifically the Strela radar electronics plant in that border oblast. United 24 media says that the attack caused a massive fire, decimated one of the Bryansk facility's main production building, along with taking out at least one of its storage areas. And this attack will really anger Putin. The Bryansk facility was located just 6.2 miles away from the Ukraine border, exposing just how poorly Russia defends regions that are well within range of Ukraine's short-range drones. The Strela plant matters because it was known to be fulfilling defense contracts on Putin's behalf. And wouldn't you just know it, the facility is yet another that has close ties to Rostec. We're starting to see a pattern with these strikes. It's clear that Ukraine identified several key cogs in the Rostec manufacturing machine and decided to take them all out over 4 days. Specifically, the Strela plant specialized in building radio and radar technical components, including coils, chokes, transformers, and interference filters. Those components were then sent to other defense manufacturers, which used them to build everything from Russia's domestically made Shahed drones to the Tor air defense system. We'll have more on that system in a moment. Strela operated constantly. The factory had completed 124 government-issued contracts by the time it was destroyed, amounting to $2.1 million of work. Plus, as we saw at the Tula plant, this wasn't the first time that Ukraine targeted Strela. An earlier attack on May 4th hit Strela with either drones or rockets, causing thick blankets of smoke to rise from the facility's production and administrative buildings. That strike injured 2 security personnel. The attack that came just days later appears to have taken Strela out for good. Militarny also has a report on the Strela attack, noting that satellite images from the scene indicate that the facility's production plant has been completely destroyed by a fire. It also highlighted another attack on the facility, conducted on November 30th, 2024, which damaged production facilities, a warehouse, and an administrative building. Perhaps that attack was a test for Ukraine to see if it could hit Strela. Once it knew it could, Ukraine developed a pair of follow-up strikes that hit the facility much harder. What does the loss of Strela mean for Russia? Potentially, it leads to fewer of the country's Tor M2s making it to the field. Like the Pantsir S-1, the Tor M2 is a short-range air defense missile system that sends volleys of missiles at incoming aerial targets. The system is a little weaker than the Pantsir S-1, as it lacks the 30mm gun and has 2 launchers, each capable of holding 4 missiles in a ready-to-fire vertical position. However, being a little weaker than another air defense system doesn't make the Tor M2 useless. It's capable of firing both 9M331 and 9M332 missiles, which both employ a tubular airframe design that makes them streamlined enough to travel quickly through the air. The Tor M2 is also designed for close contact. Its maximum range is around 7.4 miles, and it's capable of hitting targets at altitudes of up to 6.2 miles. Speaking of targets, the Tor M2 can track 48 of them simultaneously. That's a useful feature in itself. Though the air defense system isn't capable of taking out all 48 of those targets with the 8 missiles loaded into its launchers, it may be able to transmit its targeting data to other air defense systems that can take out the incoming threats. Like the Pantsir S-1, the Tor M2 is mobile and can be loaded onto vehicles for Russia to transport the defensive weapon to wherever it might be needed. This time, the vehicle is an MZKT-6922, which is semi-hardened to protect its crew from small arms fire and shrapnel. Once on the road and loaded with the Tor M2, this vehicle is capable of traveling at speeds up to 49.7 miles per hour, making it quick enough to evade slow-moving artillery fire. However, Ukraine could theoretically hit these vehicles with kamikaze drones to disable them, much like we've seen it do against Russia's tanks and armored vehicles throughout the war. The problem for Ukraine is operating its drones in Russian territory long enough to take out these vehicles. It was far easier and smarter to simply take out the plant that builds the components for the Tor M2. All of this leads us to a question. Just what has Ukraine achieved with its trio of drone strikes conducted over the last 4 days? In the practical sense, it's taken out facilities that produce several vital Russian weapons. The loss of Pantsir S-1s and Tor M2s leaves Russia's aerial pathways vulnerable. Ukraine can now safely send drones and missiles into Russian airspace without worrying about them being shot down. Specifically, it has less to worry about when its long-range weapons approach their targets, because it's just taken out 2 facilities that manufacture air defense systems, or components for systems, designed to operate at short range. Beyond enabling itself to ramp up the pressure on Russia, Ukraine has also destroyed a plant that builds warheads for Russia's Shahed drones. So Ukraine relieved pressure on itself. Practically every missile launch Putin conducts is accompanied by these drones, whether as a diversion or attacking threats designed to cause more damage. Ukraine hasn't made those drones useless. Russia still has plenty of them. However, it has removed a facility that builds the explosives that these drones need, which minimizes Russia's aerial threat against Ukraine's cities and military infrastructure. All of these practical outcomes are vital. However, it may be what this trio of strikes represents that is most important to Ukraine. They're important symbolically for two reasons: when and where they took place. As for where, Ukraine just showed Putin that it can hit targets on Russian territory anytime and almost anywhere. Putin now knows that his production facilities aren't safe. Bear in mind that all of the targets Ukraine just hit over the past 4 days would have been well defended. They had to be. Putin wouldn't be so stupid as to leave several of his key production plants unguarded, given the value of what they build for his military. So Ukraine just proved to Russia's leader that its long-range drones are capable of evading Russia's aerial defenses, even as they take out facilities that exist to build those very air defenses. That has to hurt Russia's leader. In terms of timing, these strikes came either side of the ceasefire that Putin attempted to negotiate for Russia's Victory Day parade. Russia hosted 29 world leaders at that parade, most notably China's Xi Jinping. That makes this trio of strikes a message. Ukraine didn't attack the parade directly. Doing so would have created geopolitical issues that could have potentially brought more nations into its war against Russia. However, by attacking Russian facilities both on the eve of the parade and after it happened, showed the leaders who attended Putin's little party that they're backing the wrong side. Russia isn't as safe Putin wants to make it appear. If it had wanted, Ukraine could have hit the parade just as easily as it struck these 3 facilities. That fact will stick in Putin's craw as he attempts to adapt to the fact that he just lost 3 key factories that build weapons for his marauding military. But what do you think about Ukraine's trio of drone strikes that place over the past few days? How impactful will they be on the war, given the nature of what the attacked facilities produced? How will Putin adapt to the loss of so many important factories? Share your thoughts with us in the comments, and remember to subscribe to The Military Show for more commentary on the latest developments in the Ukraine war.